These are 3 times where the protagonist hides a dark secret.
The story begins in a classroom where a young teacher named Chen Yang is giving her English lessons and explaining the importance of the language. She notices that the students seem to be paying attention, except for a girl who looks distressed and as if she has a lot on her mind. Seeing this, Chen senses that something is wrong and suddenly recalls her own past. We go back to 2011 in the city of Anqiao, where Chen is still a high school student. She is considered one of the top students in her class, always achieving the highest grades. With exams approaching, Chen usually puts on her headphones to block out distractions and concentrate fully on her studies. One day, however, she is startled by the loud noise of her classmates running through the halls. Curious, she decides to go see what's going on, and that's when she is shocked to witness something terrible. A girl has decided to take her own life. But this girl is not just any student. She is Hu Xiaodie, Chen's only friend. At that moment, many students gather around Hu, but instead of helping her or calling for an ambulance, most of them take out their phones to photograph her body and post the images online. Chen, horrified by the scene, slowly approaches and covers her friend's body with her own coat in front of everyone. The other students continue to take photos and whisper, implying that many of them know the reason for Hu's action. But apparently, none have the courage to say it aloud. The next day during class, Chen is called to the principal's office. There, 2 detectives are waiting to question her. They ask how close she was to Hu Xiaodie and whether they were friends. To their surprise, Chen denies that they were friends, claiming that she only covered Hu's face so that people would stop taking pictures. It's clear that Chen is hiding something about why Hu took her own life, but she chooses not to tell the detectives. When Chen returns to the classroom, she finds that someone has stained her chair with red ink. We then learn that Hu suffered the same bullying tactic before her death. The teacher intervenes, making it clear that such behavior is unacceptable, and after class, he quietly tells Chen not to hesitate to tell him if something like that happens again. Later, in the cafeteria, a troublesome girl named Wei Lei and her friends approach Chen, asking her to help them study for the upcoming exams. Chen refuses, saying she has no time, so Wei takes out her phone and starts taking pictures of Chen, just as she used to do with Hu. Here it's revealed that these girls were the ones who constantly bullied Hu, driving her to her tragic end. Chen knows all this, but she is too afraid to tell the police. On her way home, Wei and her gang corner her again, this time because she spoke to the police. Despite their taunts, Chen says nothing and walks away in silence. When she gets home, we see that Chen barely spends time with her mother, who sells illicit goods for a living. Her mother, wanting to protect her daughter's education, tries to keep her distance so as not to cause problems for her. Before going to bed, she promises Chen that she will soon buy a house so they can live peacefully. The next afternoon, Chen is walking through the streets when she sees a group of thugs surrounding and beating up a boy. She quickly takes out her phone to call the police, but one of the gang members notices her, snatches her phone from her hands, smashes it on the ground, and then takes the little money she had, just 50 yuan. They mock her, and, to humiliate her further, the gang leader orders her to kiss the boy they were beating. Faced with no choice, Chen hesitates for a moment, and then leans forward to kiss him. The boy's name is Xiao Bei. Xiao doesn't seem particularly upset about the beating, but what angers him is that they humiliated Chen. Without a second thought, he retaliates and hits the gang leader, forcing the others to back off. The thugs eventually leave. Later, Xiao finds Chen again and thanks her for stepping in. He asks how much money they took from her, and when she tells him 50 yuan, he says he can't pay her back right now, but offers to fix her phone instead. They go to a small cell phone repair shop, where Xiao repairs it himself with impressive skill. Before leaving, he tells her that from now on he'll be her bodyguard, but that it will cost her a small fee. Chen refuses, but Xiao still begins to follow her around, seemingly determined to keep his word. When Chen returns home, she finds her front door covered with posters accusing her mother of owing large debts. The rumors spread quickly at school, and the next day, everyone mocks her and whispers behind her back. Feeling overwhelmed, Chen leaves school early and wanders the streets until she runs into Xiao again. Seeing her upset, Xiao takes her to his humble home under a bridge. There, he cooks noodles for her, and for the first time in a long while, Chen feels comfortable enough to relax. But their conversation takes a turn when Chen, perhaps to mask her vulnerability, insults Xiao by saying he has no qualities she could ever like. Xiao, offended, tells her that he was only trying to be polite and that he won't bother her anymore. That night, Chen cries alone in her room, realizing that the only person who had shown her kindness is now hurt because of her words. The next day during gym class, no one wants to play volleyball with her except Wei Lei, who uses the opportunity to provoke her. Chen, frustrated, throws the ball at her and warns her to stop. Later, as Chen is leaving school, Wei pushes her down the stairs. Luckily, Chen is not seriously injured, but she's clearly had enough. Remembering Hu Xiaodi, she decides it's time to tell the truth. Chen goes to the police and speaks to Inspector Zheng Yi, telling him everything about the bullying. The police summon Wei and her friends for questioning, but without solid evidence, they are released. However, the school still decides to suspend them for the remainder of the year. That night, Inspector Zheng offers to drive Chen home. During the ride, he apologizes for not being able to punish the bullies more severely and advises her to be careful. A few days later, Wei Lei and her gang wait for Chen outside her home. When Chen sees them, she quickly hides inside a dumpster until they leave. Once the coast is clear, she runs straight to Xiaobei's place and begs him to help protect her. From that moment on, Xiao begins escorting her to and from school every day. Little by little, Chen starts spending more time at Xiao's home. One evening she notices he comes back badly beaten. Concerned, she asks what happened, and Xiao decides to open up about his past. He tells her that when he was 13, his father abandoned him, and later, his mother left to be with another man. Since then, he has been living on his own. Hearing this, Chen realizes she is the first person to genuinely care about him in a long time. Over time, their bond becomes stronger. Chen begins to feel she can rely on him. But one afternoon, trouble comes again. Xiao is suddenly arrested by the police, suspected of being involved in a robbery. That same night, while Chen is alone, Wei Lei and her gang ambush her. They beat her, cut her hair, and forcibly strip part of her clothing, while another girl films everything on her phone. Before the situation gets worse, a neighbor appears and scares them off. The next day, Chen sees Xiao again. When he notices her hair has been cut unevenly, he shaves his own head so that she won't feel ashamed or alone. Days later, the time for the final exams arrives, but the peace is short-lived. News spreads that a body has been found after a landslide. It's Wei Lei. A flashback reveals what really happened. A few days earlier, Wei had approached Chen and unexpectedly apologized for everything she had done to her. She even offered her money in exchange for Chen not telling the police the truth about the bullying. At first, Chen seemed willing to forgive her, but when Wei insulted her mother, Chen's anger got the better of her. In a moment of blind rage, she pushed Wei down a staircase. Wei's head hit the ground hard, and she died instantly. Panicked, Chen told Xiao what happened. Without hesitation, Xiao told her he would take care of everything, meaning he would dispose of the body himself. After the landslide exposes Wei Lei's body, the police investigate and soon find the vehicle Xiao used to transport it. Wei's friends quickly point the finger at Chen, accusing her of being involved. Chen is brought in for questioning. During the interrogation, she denies having anything to do with Wei's death and claims she doesn't even know Xiaobei. Due to lack of solid evidence, Chen is eventually released, but Xiao is charged and imprisoned. A few days later, Inspector Zheng visits Chen at school. He congratulates her on achieving one of the highest grades in the exams, but then, with a serious look, tells her that Xiao has been sentenced to the death penalty. Shocked and horrified, Chen protests, but Zheng then admits it was a lie. His intention was to push her into confessing the truth. Sometime later, Chen decides to visit Xiao in prison. Their meeting is short, but deeply emotional. They exchange no words, only looks filled with pain and unspoken feelings, before the guards take them away to different detention centers. Back in the present day, we return to the opening scene. Chen is teaching English to her students. She notices a shy, withdrawn girl in her class, and in her, Chen sees a reflection of her own younger self. When class ends, Chen offers to walk the girl home, sensing that she too is a victim of bullying. As they walk, we see Xiaobei in the distance, quietly following them, still watching over her. 4 girls attend an interview for a modeling job at a fashion show. The interviewer walks in, and as soon as he sees the first girl, he smiles in satisfaction at her beauty and moves on to analyze the next girl. As he beams in satisfaction, his smile suddenly fades away as soon as he sees the last girl. He immediately notices her shortness and ignores her to speak to the other beautiful girls. As he instructs them on how to carry out their job, Nanhee, the short girl, interrupts to ask if she would be employed for the job. He contemplates for a moment and asks her to smile, but she's unable to smile naturally, which gives him a jump scare. At this moment, someone runs over to tell him that 3 laborers had been injured while working on setting up the fashion runway. This makes him worry about missing the deadline. As he contemplates what to do, he sees Nahi struggling to smile, so he gets an idea to employ her as a laborer. She accepts it, but complains about the difficulty of the job. So, he advises her to accept her reality and stop striving to become a model. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Sijin, a handsome but cocky playboy, breaks up with a member of a popular girl group band. After leaving her waiting room, he goes with his friend to attend the hottest fashion show happening in the town. Coincidentally, Nanhee is also there. After working as a laborer for the show, she stays backstage to watch the models on the runway, but she soon gets sad and begins to complain about how unfair life is for her. As she stands to leave the backstage, she suddenly notices a shaky pillar and immediately spins into action by using her back to prevent it from falling. But as the weight of the pillar presses on her, Sijin comes out of nowhere to assist her in holding the pillar. She immediately recognizes him as her university classmate, but he fails to recognize her. As the weight continues to press on them, he switches position to prevent it from falling and ruining the show. But the new position brings them close to each other. As soon as the show ends, they let go of the pillar together and jump to safety, causing them to end up in a hug on the floor. She immediately thanks him for his help, but he reveals that he had helped her hold the pillar to prevent it from falling on his crush, who was a model. He ignores the bleeding wound on her hands and goes to check up on the model. Seeing this, she breaks down in tears at how the world was unfair to average-looking people. Nanhee is an average-looking college student, often ignored by her colleagues. Each time her friend group goes for a drink, the boys crowd over the beautiful girls, causing her to be left alone. This damages her confidence, so she often spends countless hours on the computer editing photos of herself. One day, she angrily approaches her mother and requests money to do plastic surgery, but the mother rejects her request. So, in anger, she yells at the mother and accuses her of passing down ugly genes to her. It turns out that her ugly mother had married a handsome man, but ended up with average-looking children. As the mother walks away with her husband, she turns around to stare at her daughter and comments that it's time to pass on a ring to her. Meanwhile, Nanhee continues to face rejection from part-time jobs due to her average-looking face. She even learns from her best friend that she had not been invited to their high school reunion. That day, as soon as she returns home, her mother drags her into a room and shows her a photo book with pictures of her ugly grandparents who somehow managed to marry handsome men. The mother shows her a ring and reveals that if a man puts it on her, she would become the most beautiful woman in the man's eyes. The mother hands over the rings to her and instructs her to return it before her husband gets back. So, the next day at school, Nanhee decides to try the ring's power on Sijin. She invites him for a drink by lying that a beautiful classmate wanted to speak to him. Tempted by the offer, he accepts her invitation for a drink, so she gets him drunk and asks him to put the ring on her fingers. Confused by her request, he drunkenly accepts. As soon as he wears it on her, the world freezes, and she magically floats to the ceiling, surrounded by magical sparkling lights. After a while, she floats down to her seat, still looking the same as she was. But suddenly, her appearance changes in his eyes, and he begins to see her as the girl of his dreams. The next day at school, as he walks past her in the hallway, he becomes bewitched by her fake beauty and stops to ask for her name. That day, as soon as she returns home, she immediately hands over the ring to her mother before her father arrives. The next day at school, she sees a poster advertising a fashion competition. Anyone who wins gets a free trip to Paris. As she looks at the poster in envy, her best friend approaches her, so they get into a playful banter. Unknown to her, Sejin is watching her from afar. Since she's wearing the ring, he continues to see her as the girl of his dreams, so he asks a classmate for her phone number. Later that day, she receives a text from her mother, telling her to return the ring before her father returns from work. So, she decides to return home on time, but Sejin suddenly calls and asks her out on a date. This leaves her confused for a moment, but upon remembering that she needs to return the ring to her mother before her father returns home, she rejects his offer and tells him that she needs to go home. Annoyed at this, he meets up with her male best friend and confesses that he likes her. He warns the friend to stay away from her, since he plans to make her his girlfriend. Then, the next day, he waits for her in the school's hallway, and in the presence of everyone, he asks her to go on a date with him. She immediately accepts. He takes her shopping and asks her to try on a dress. Although she looks shabby wearing the gown, in his eyes, she's the most beautiful girl on earth. As they sit down for a drink, he asks about her major in school. He's shocked to learn they are in the same faculty, so he asks if she knows a short-looking but average girl who's also in the same faculty. Unknown to him, the average girl is actually Nanhee, but due to the effect of the magic ring, he can't see her real face. Since the magic ring only allows him to see her as a different person, he inquires if she knows the short girl, so she lies that the girl had dropped out of school, and when he asks for the short girl's name, she makes up a lie, saying that the girl's name is Miju. She wonders why he's asking, so he reveals that although the girl is short and average looking, she's a good person. She gets annoyed hearing him compliment her ugly self, so she storms off. Meanwhile, Sejin prepares to participate in a fashion competition as a designer. His friend urges him to find the perfect model for their dress, so he decides to ask Nanhee to become his model, since she's the most beautiful woman in his eyes. That day, he suddenly shows up at her house, and as soon as she sees him, she begs her mother to let her wear the ring. The mother initially hesitates, but eventually gives in to her request. So, Nanhee wears the ring, and as soon as he sees her, he becomes bewitched and agrees to join a Meiju making class hosted by her father in order to get closer to her. After spending some time with him, she leaves to return the ring to her mother. As she changes into a new cloth, he comes out of nowhere and sees her without the ring, which allows him to see her real face. But he doesn't suspect anything, since he believes that his crush and the average-looking girl in front of him are two different people. He asks the average girl for her number, so she gives him her mother's number since he already has her real number. That night, as she tells her mother never to ever pick up his call, she receives a text from him on her phone asking for a meetup. So, the next day, she meets up with him while wearing the ring, making him see her as the girl of his dreams. He suddenly stands up and introduces her to the entire class as his model for the fashion competition. The entire class is shocked to hear this since they all see Nanhee as an average-looking short girl. Nanhee is also shocked and drags him out for a talk. She rejects the offer to become his model, but he insists that her beauty is perfect for the job. He reveals that after seeing her in Namsan Park, he got the inspiration to design his clothes. She's shocked to hear this, but insists on rejecting his offer. As she walks away, she realizes that she had never met him in a park, which means he had seen someone else whom he fell in love with. So, the ring cast a spell on him to make him view her as the girl of his dreams. As she thinks about this, her high school friend suddenly walks up to her. This person turns out to be Miju, the girl he had actually seen in the park, and the real person whom he fell in love with. Miju is happy to meet Nanhee and asks about her red book, so Nanhee reveals that the book is at home. When she inquires about the book, Miju tells her that the book is special since it makes her meet someone she likes. She recalls meeting Sejin at Namhan Park and how he had given her his phone number. Meanwhile, Nanhei tells her mother that Sijin may be seeing her as someone else. She realizes that each time she wears the ring, he'll no longer see her face, but will see her as the love of his life. Later the next day, as she talks to her mother, Sijin suddenly calls the mother's line, which means he wanted to speak to the real her. She answers the call, so he invites her for a meal. She goes without wearing the ring, so he treats her to an expensive meal and even takes her to see the movies in order to get information from her on how to convince her magical self to accept becoming his model. He doesn't realize that they're the same person, so she gives him tips on how to convince her other self. She advises him to buy a strawberry-scented perfume, so the next day, he meets her wearing the ring and asks her out on a date. After the date, he gives her the perfume and leaves. While watching him walk away, she comments on how the ring makes it easier for an ugly girl like her to have a chance to date him. The next day, he invites her to take her measurements, but notices that her waistline is bigger than what the magic shows him. When he inquires, she lies that she had eaten a lot of breakfast, which made her bloated. Then, he measures her bust line and finds it perfect, so they end up sharing a kiss. Later that day, she receives a call from her best friend, Miju, who invites her to a bar and tries to humiliate her in the presence of her rich friend. But Nanhei refuses to act as their waitress and angrily storms off. It begins to rain, so she calls Sijin, who immediately rushes to her location, using a pizza box as an umbrella. As they walk home, he proposes they take a picture. She immediately becomes anxious, thinking that the magic will wear off when her real face appears in the photos. But to her surprise, the magic ring makes him still see her as someone else in the picture. He posts the photos as his profile picture on his social media, making the entire university erupt. Everyone begins to wonder what he sees in an average-looking girl like Nanhei. Unknown to them, each time he looks at Nanhei, he sees someone else. Later that day, Nanhei enrolls in the department's fashion competition in order to also stand the chance to win the free trip to Paris. The next day, while on a shopping date with Sijin, he tells her how beautiful she is. So she gets curious and asks him to draw a hand sketch photo of how he sees her. As soon as he finishes drawing, she takes a look at it and realizes that the girl of his dreams is actually her best friend, which means the person he sees while looking at her is actually her best friend. So, the next day, she meets him while wearing the ring and asks if he would have dated her if she weren't beautiful. He truthfully responds that he's dating her because she's beautiful. Upon hearing this, she tries to leave, so he grabs her hands to stop her, causing both of them to fall into a nearby pool. As she tries to swim out, the ring slips out of her hands, causing him to see her real face for a split second. But before he can make sense of what's happening, she quickly swims out, abandoning the ring at the bottom of the pool. Fortunately, she finds her best friend and begs him to find the ring for her, so he dives into the huge pool in search of it. Meanwhile, Sijin sees the real girl of his dreams in a taxi, so he stalks her. Coincidentally, Miju goes to Nanhei's house to apologize to her. He follows her home and assumes she's the one he's dating, so he yells at her, asking why she had left him in the pool. At this moment, Nanhei arrives home without the rings and sees Sijin already talking to Miju, so she turns off the light and grabs Miju. While outside, she confesses everything to her friend and begs the girl to pretend to date him until she finds the ring in order not to blow her cover. The friend agrees to this, but points out that she might fall in love with him while acting like his pretend girlfriend. Then, she goes to meet him, but he doesn't realize that she's the real girl of his dreams. Nanhei sees them walking away together and gets teary-eyed. So, from that day, Sijin begins to go out on dates with Miju, not realizing anything. However, he notices a slight difference and confesses that she seems strange. Meanwhile, the male best friend finds the magic ring and returns it to her, making her jump in happiness. The next day, she decides to wear the ring and go on a last date with Sijin before finally breaking up with him. She puts effort into her makeup and puts on the ring to prepare to see him. When he meets her, the magic ring causes him to see her as the girl of his dreams. However, he immediately smells her perfume and points out that he misses it. They go on a bike date, and afterward, she takes him shopping, where she gives him a gift to give to his mother, who is returning to the country after 7 years. He tells her to try on the dress in order to see how it would look on his mother. Unknown to them, Miju is also at the same shopping center, She sees the same dress and decides to try it on. As she steps out of the dressing room, Nanhee comes out at the same time, causing Sejin to see two of them. He becomes instantly confused and wonders why he's seeing two girls of his dreams. Seeing this, Miju gets angry and forcefully pulls out the rings from Nanhee's finger in order to expose her. As soon as the ring is removed, the magic fades from his eyes, and he's able to see Nanhee's real face. Left with no choice, she comes out and confesses the truth to him about how she had used the rings to bewitch and make him see her as the girl of his dreams. Although she pleads for forgiveness, he refuses to forgive her and angrily storms off. She begins a part-time job as a bartender wearing costumes. There, she sees him having a drink with Miju, the real girl of his dreams. While walking past, she overhears him asking Miju to be his model for the fashion show. The next day, he sees her talking to a new man and assumes that she had used the ring to bewitch him. He confronts her about it, but realizes she is no longer wearing the ring. When she tries to leave, he stops her and gives her a hug to check if his heart beats for her. Upon feeling nothing, he deletes his number from her phone and breaks off things with her. Then, he goes to meet Miju and begs her to be his model for the fashion competition. At the same time, Nanhee begs her male best friend to be her model for the competition. Later that day, as Sejin takes Miju's body measurements, he recalls the time he had kissed Nanhee while taking her measurements. So he tries to repeat the moment, but stops midway. Seeing this, Miju seizes the opportunity to kiss him. Some days later, as Sejin tries his designs on Miju, he receives a text from his mother, telling him that she has changed her mind about returning to the country. He gets annoyed at this and shows his anger in front of Miju. That night, as they drink together, Miju mocks him for getting depressed because of his mother. As she leaves the drinking bar, she sees Nanhee working part-time and tells her about his depression. So, she goes to meet him while wearing the costume in order to console him. He ends up crying in her arms, but after a while, he perceives her familiar perfume and realizes it's her, so he leaves. Days later, during the rehearsals for the fashion competition, Miju experiences intense anxiety while walking down the runway as Sejin's model. She ends up collapsing on stage, and as she's rushed to the hospital, she points towards her male best friend and begs him to escort her to the hospital. With her best friend gone, Nanhee has no one to act as her model for the competition, so Sejin volunteers to model for her. He walks down the runway with her designs, stunning the judges. After his turn, she tries to drag him to the hospital to get Miju to model for him, but he stops her and begs her to model his designs for him, since he got inspiration for the dress while dating her. She initially hesitates, but ends up agreeing since they have no other choice. She gets on the runway with his designs, shocking the entire audience since she's average-looking and doesn't fit a model's criteria. As the audience murmurs about this, Sejin encourages her from the side so she regains her confidence and strides with a shocking aura. Minutes later, the judges announce the winner, but neither she nor Sejin wins the competition. A few days later, as Nanhee's parents hold an exhibition for the Meiju class, she finds her mother's ring on the floor and realizes that her mother doesn't need the rings to bewitch her father. When she confronts her parents about this, the mother confesses that she doesn't need the ring since her handsome husband actually likes her appearance. As they hold the exhibition, Sejin suddenly shows up. Outside, he gives her a new ring and asks her to become his girlfriend. He reveals that he had never dated a girl for more than a month, but she was the first, which made him realize that he loved her. After a few days of dating, he tells her to throw the magic ring since she no longer needs it. Before throwing it away, she decides to wear it for the last time to see what the magic will show him. When he wears it on her finger, her appearance doesn't change, which means she is now the girl of his dreams. He tells her how beautiful she is, so they share a lovely kiss together. The story begins with Soo Yunyan getting off the school bus. Immediately, many students start talking about her beauty, elegance, and confident walk. Among them, there is one who looks at her with particular interest. Chungjang, the most popular boy in the entire school, admired by both teachers and students for his intelligence, looks, and athletic skills. When their eyes meet, Chungjang smiles subtly, but Soo Yunyan simply glances at him and keeps walking, as if he were just another student. This reaction surprises Chung, who is used to girls blushing or greeting him enthusiastically. Later, in the classroom, the teacher announces that a new student will be joining them, Soo Yunyin. The moment she enters, the entire class falls silent. Her presence is so striking that even the teacher seems slightly distracted. When she introduces herself, she speaks calmly and politely, but without unnecessary smiles. Some of the girls start whispering, clearly feeling threatened by her charm, while others just admire her. Chungjang, sitting in the back, watches her with growing curiosity. During break time, several boys try to approach Soo Yunyin, offering to show her around the school. She thanks them, but politely declines, saying she prefers to explore on her own. When she heads toward the library, she finds Chungjang already there, reading a book. He closes it, stands up, and walks toward her. With a confident smile, he says, "You're Soo Yunyin, right?" "I'm Chungjang. People say I'm the most handsome guy here, but I think you might just steal that title from me." Soo Yunyin looks at him for a moment and then responds, "Flattery doesn't work on me." Without another word, she turns and walks away, leaving Chung frozen in place, both surprised and intrigued. From that day on, Chungjang becomes determined to get her attention. He starts sitting closer to her in class, finding excuses to talk to her, and even volunteering to be her partner for school projects. But Soo Yunyin remains distant, always polite, but never letting him get too close. One afternoon, during physical education class, the students are divided into teams for a basketball match. Chungjang takes the opportunity to impress Soo Yunyin with his skills. Every time he scores, he glances at her to see if she's watching, but she seems more interested in reading a book on the bleachers than in the game. When the match ends, Chungjang walks up to her, slightly sweaty but smiling. "Did you see my winning shot?" he asks. Soo Yunyin closes her book and replies calmly, "I saw it. But I also saw you missed 3 before that." Then she gets up and leaves, once again leaving him speechless. Chung's friends start teasing him, saying it's the first time they've seen a girl reject him so openly. Instead of being discouraged, this only makes him more determined to win her over. Over the next few days, Chungjang begins to investigate more about Soo Yunyin. He finds out she recently transferred from another prestigious school and that her academic record is outstanding. He also hears rumors that she comes from a wealthy family, but Soo never talks about her personal life. One day, while they are assigned as lab partners in chemistry class, Chung tries a different approach. "You're good at everything, aren't you?" he says, watching her mix the chemicals. Soo glances at him and replies, "I'm just focused." "You should try it." Her cold yet elegant demeanor fascinates him even more. Chung realizes that unlike other girls, Soo Yunyin doesn't care about his popularity, his wealth, or his looks, and that's exactly what makes her stand out in his eyes. One rainy afternoon, classes are dismissed early. Most students run to avoid getting wet, but Soo Yunyin calmly opens her umbrella and walks toward the school gate. Chungjang, noticing her from a distance, quickly catches up to her. "You know, walking alone on a rainy day looks pretty, but it's also kind of sad," he says with a grin. Soo replies without looking at him, "Then don't look." Chung laughs softly. "You really don't make things easy for people, do you?" They walk together in silence for a few steps until a group of boys from another class passes by and tries to flirt with Soo. Chung steps forward, blocking their way, and tells them to leave. The boys hesitate, but eventually walk off, muttering under their breath. "You didn't have to do that," Soo says. "I know," Chung answers, "but I wanted to." Soo doesn't respond. She simply keeps walking until they reach the main road, where she gets into a black car that has been waiting for her. Chung watches as the driver opens the door for her and bows slightly. This confirms what he suspected. Sue comes from a wealthy family. From that day on, Chung becomes even more curious about her life outside school. He starts noticing the small details, the discreet yet expensive watch she wears, the way she carries herself, the books she reads in their original language. One evening, at the school library, Chung finally decides to ask directly. "Why did you transfer here, Su Yunyin?" She looks at him for a long moment before answering. "Let's just say I wanted a change. But a change doesn't mean I want distractions." And with that, she goes back to reading, leaving Chung once again both frustrated and intrigued. A week later, the school hosts a cultural festival where students set up booths, performances, and exhibitions. Su Yunyin is assigned to help with the literature club's poetry reading. She dresses in a simple yet elegant white dress, her hair tied back, attracting the attention of everyone present. When it's her turn to read, her voice is calm and clear, carrying a certain grace that makes the entire audience fall silent. Chung Zhang, who is in charge of the basketball club's booth, abandons his post just to watch her. After the reading, Chung approaches her with a cup of hot tea. "You were incredible up there," he says sincerely. Sue takes the cup, gives him a brief nod, and says, "Thank you." It's the first time she's thanked him for anything, and Chung notices it immediately. Encouraged, he walks with her for the rest of the festival. They stop at various booths, and although Sue maintains her usual composure, Chung catches small hints of amusement in her eyes when she sees something she likes. Later that afternoon, they pass by the basketball court, where some students are playing a friendly match. The boys challenge Chung to join, and he accepts, asking Sue to wait for him. While she watches, one of the opposing players accidentally collides with Chung, causing him to fall and scrape his arm. Sue instinctively takes a step forward, concerned, but quickly composes herself when she sees Chung get up and keep playing. After the game, Chung walks back to her, slightly out of breath but smiling. "Were you worried about me?" he teases. Sue looks away. "You play too recklessly." Chung grins. "I'll take that as a yes." As the weeks pass, Chung Zhang and Su Yunyin begin to spend more time together, though Sue still maintains a certain distance. Chung, however, is patient and never pushes her too far. One afternoon, after school, Chung finds Sue in the music room playing the piano. The melody is soft but carries a deep sense of longing. He listens quietly until she notices his presence. "How long have you been standing there?" she asks. "Long enough to know you play beautifully," Chung replies, walking closer. Sue closes the piano lid. "It's just a hobby." "Hobbies can say a lot about a person," Chung says, sitting on the bench next to her. "Like, you seem like someone who hides a lot behind a calm expression." Sue gives him a faint smile. "And you seem like someone who talks too much." They both laugh softly, and for the first time, the air between them feels lighter. A few days later, a rumor spreads through the school that Chung Zhang has been seen rejecting several girls who confess to him. Some say it's because he already likes someone. Sue overhears this but doesn't comment. That same week, Chung officially asks Sue to attend the upcoming school dance with him. She hesitates, clearly conflicted, but finally says, "I'll think about it." On the night of the dance, Sue arrives wearing a navy blue gown that draws every eye in the room. Chung, waiting at the entrance in a tailored suit, can't hide his admiration when he sees her. "You came," he says with a bright smile. "I said I'd think about it. I didn't say no, Sue replies. They dance together, and although Sue keeps her usual composed demeanor, there are moments when she allows herself to smile genuinely at Chung's clumsy but earnest moves. After the dance, Chungjang walks Su Yunyin home. The streets are quiet, lit only by the soft glow of the street lamps. "Did you have a good time?" Chung asks. Sue hesitates for a moment before answering, "Yes. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be." Chung laughs. "I'll take that as the highest compliment you've given me so far." When they reach her house, Sue turns to him and says, "Good night, Chungjang." It's the first time she's addressed him by his full name, and it leaves him smiling even after she disappears inside. In the following days, Chung continues to court her in his own way, walking her to class, sharing books he thinks she might like, and occasionally surprising her with small gestures, like her favorite tea or a quiet spot in the library he's reserved just for the two of them. Eventually, Sue begins to open up more. She reveals that she transferred schools because of family matters and that she prefers to keep her personal life private to avoid unnecessary gossip. Chung listens without pressing her for more details, happy just to be someone she trusts enough to share with. One afternoon, as they're leaving school together, Chung stops and looks at her seriously. "Su Yunyin, I like you. Not because you're beautiful or smart, though you are, but because you make me want to be better." Sue studies him for a moment, her usual guarded expression softening. "You've been persistent. I'll give you that." "Does that mean—" Chung begins. Sue gives him a small, almost teasing smile. "It means you can keep walking me home." From that day on, their relationship slowly grows, built on mutual respect, subtle smiles, and the quiet understanding that sometimes love doesn't need grand declarations. It just needs two people willing to take each step together.
Minato is a 20-year-old girl living with her parents and stepbrother. Although they live together, she doesn't get along with him due to his nonchalant and cold behavior. During their high school days, she often gets bullied by girls for being his stepsister and for having the opportunity to live with him. Since they're not related by blood, every girl saw her as a threat, so she hated him for making her high school life miserable. While she struggled to get a boyfriend, he got himself a new girlfriend every week. While narrating her past ordeal to her best friend, she laments on how she'll have to go to the same college as him. Her friend consoles her and then begs her to take on a part-time gig as a model. Amidst her protest, the friend hands over a high school uniform and a blonde wig, and persuades her to pose in the middle of the street for a photo shoot. After a few snaps, the friend suddenly leaves to get some accessories for the photo shoot. Minato immediately panics and tries to go with her, but suddenly bumps into the shoulders of her stepbrother. The impact causes her to drop to the floor without looking at his face. He immediately recognizes her as his stepsister, but to save herself from looking like a weird cosplayer, she quickly denies it, and even accuses him of trying to act familiar with a stranger on first meeting. He falls for this, and assumes she's a stranger who looks like his sister. Thinking she's someone else, he takes a photo of her, and asks for her phone number in order to ask her out. She lies that she doesn't have a phone since her parents are strict. So he pens down his number on a piece of paper and begs her to contact him when she can. Later that day, during a family dinner, her mother brings up the part-time modeling job, but she immediately cuts off the discussion by spilling food on the dining table. While diligently cleaning the stain, her parents comment on her extreme germophobia and wonder how her stepbrother would cope with living in college with her. He coldly responds that he would have to deal with it since it's her bad habit. Shocked at his response, she inwardly complained that his problematic habits were more than hers. Unable to forgive his comment, she decides to play a huge prank on him. She quickly searches through the wastebin for his phone number, and then visits a nearby phone booth to give him a call. He spaces out upon hearing her voice on the phone call, but eventually agrees to meet her by 5 p.m. later in the week. To pull off the prank, Minato wears a blonde wig and employs the help of her friend to do her makeup. She plans to reveal her real identity upon meeting him in order to give him a jump scare. Upon getting to the agreed location, She hides behind a pool and decides to punish him by keeping him waiting for her. As she watches him from afar, a beautiful woman approaches and asks him out on a date, but he declines and continues to wait. An hour passes by, and more girls approach him, but he declines their request. Seeing this, Minato decides to end the prank and confess her real identity to him. She runs over and apologizes for being late, but to her shock, he comforts her by lying that he had also been late. Speechless at his lie, she agrees to go to a cafe with him. There, as she struggles on how to break the truth to him, he suddenly pulls out a new phone from his bag and gives it to her as a gift. Shocked at his kindness, she tries to reject it, but he insists on giving it to her. When he asks for her name, she gives him her best friend's name, Mina Noguchi. After the date, she narrates everything to her best friend, who's shocked that her nonchalant stepbrother is actually a simp for women. With this in mind, the friend immediately gets an idea on how to take revenge on her brother for making her high school life miserable. Together, they devise a plan to make him fall madly in love with her, and once he's deep in love, she'll break up with him to make him heartbroken. So one day, during a karaoke date, he asks her to be his girlfriend, but she agrees on the condition that he breaks up with all the flings and hookups in his life. Thinking he won't agree, she gets shocked to see him returning home each day with scars and wounds from beatings and fights from breaking up with his hookups. After breaking up with all of them, he invites her again for a date and officially asks her out to be his girlfriend. Seeing the desperate look in his eyes, she accepts his request, but panics afterwards with her best friend at the college cafeteria. As they discuss how to deal with the issue, he walks past them, but upon seeing his stepsister, he chooses to sit far away from her. She ignores him as well, but at that moment, a group of classmates swarms over and invites her to a class drinking party. There, she comes across an old classmate and immediately connects with him. That night, he escorts her home and asks her out on a second date. She agrees to his request, but suddenly, her stepbrother comes out of nowhere to interrupt. As she enters the house, he asks if the stranger was her boyfriend, but she's shocked at his sudden curiosity and refuses to answer. Later that night, he calls her on the phone he had gifted to her, so she continues her pretense and agrees to meet him the next day. He takes her to an aquarium, and as they discuss the sea creatures, she discovers a new side to her brother and wonders why he doesn't show off his talkative and nice side. Later during the date, she inquires about his past dating life, so he confesses that he had never fallen in love and that she was his first love. Hearing this, she makes up her mind to stop toying with his feelings. As she approaches him to reveal her real identity, he suddenly pulls her up and spins her around in happiness, making her unable to reveal the truth. Confused about how to come out with the truth, she goes to her friend for advice. So, the friend decides to set the brother up with some hot girls in order to make him cheat, which would be enough for her to request a breakup without revealing the truth. So, that night, the friend invites him to a hangout with beautiful girls to make him fall for their trap. Then, she texts him using the gifted phone to ask about his whereabouts, expecting he would lie, but to their shock, he responds with the truth. Unable to believe this, they text him to leave the hangout, and he obeys without protest. While outside, he texts her requesting a meetup, so she quickly wears the blonde wig and uniform to meet him. He hugs her and tries to kiss her, but she pushes him away and claims it's improper to kiss in public. He accepts her excuse and suddenly gives her a spare key to his new apartment. He claims he would be moving out of his parents' house, so she was free to pay him a visit at his new house. Her stepbrother ends up moving out of the house in order to accommodate his new girlfriend. Unknown to him, the girlfriend is actually his sister in disguise. Meanwhile, Minato begins to feel guilty for playing an expensive prank on her stepbrother, even causing him to move out of the house. Determined to put an end to the game and pretense, she dresses up in her usual uniform and blonde wig and goes to visit him at his new apartment. While inside, he tries to hug her, but she dodges it and announces that she has something important to reveal to him. She claims that her parents had been transferred to South America, so she had no choice but to relocate with them. She requests to break up, but he insists on a long-distance relationship. When she refuses, he breaks down in tears and gives her a farewell hug. Seeing his broken state, she begins to feel guilty about her actions and even gets distracted in class. Her former classmate notices this and asks if she's okay, so she breaks down in tears and confesses that she felt bad about toying with her brother's heart. Seeing her in tears, he suddenly hugs her and promises to wait until she gives him a response. 3 months later, she decides to give him a chance, so they began dating. But one day, she comes across her brother's friend, who tells her that her brother had cut off contact with everyone and was living in solitude after breaking up with his girlfriend. Worried about him, she goes to check up on him, but he tells her to leave him alone. That night, her boyfriend calls her to make a reservation for her anniversary, But she declines the invite and continues to worry about her brother. She wonders if he had fallen for her or her disguised version. The next day, she breaks up with her boyfriend and begs her friend to do her makeup. Then, she goes to meet her stepbrother again. He's extremely happy to see her and tries to kiss her, but she evades his kiss and promises to visit him again. With her sudden reappearance, he gets out of depression, so they begin to go on multiple dates. One day, she suddenly asks who he knew that looked a lot like her. But upon hearing the question, he becomes displeased and reveals that he doesn't like to talk about the person. Seeing his displeased expression, she becomes sad and begins to wonder why he didn't like her as his sister. One day, while on a date with him, her ex-boyfriend catches her with him, but decides to stay silent. After a few days, he sees her on campus and decides to escort her home. Her mother catches them together in front of the house and invites him to have dinner with them. While discussing over dinner, he suddenly mentions that he had seen her stepbrother on a date with a blonde girl. Minato is shocked to hear this and wonders if he knew her secret. Meanwhile, the stepbrother calls him out for a discussion and warns him never to bring up his girlfriend in a discussion. Minato, on the other hand, continues to panic. As soon as she hears a sound from their direction, she immediately rushes over to check on the situation. She's shocked to see her brother choking him on the wall, so she separates the fight. Later that night, she comes out clean to her ex-boyfriend and explains the entire situation to him. He promises to keep her secret, but tells her that he would feel disgusted with himself if he ever found out that his sister did something similar to him. He refuses to support her and leaves. Upon hearing this, she immediately comes back to her senses and realizes that her actions are disgusting. Meanwhile, her stepbrother spends the entire night staring at a photo of her and finally makes up his mind. The next day, as soon as they meet, he suddenly asks for a breakup. When she requests a reason behind his decision, he begins to confess that the more he stares at her smiling face, the more he becomes confused. He reveals that he has been using her as a substitute because she looks a lot like his true love. He refuses to reveal the identity of his true love, but insists that they look alike. Minato reveals this to her best friend, so they begin to think about the identity of his true love. After a few days, her stepbrother returns to living in the family house, and like before, he continues to give her the cold shoulder. A few days later, Minato meets up with her ex-boyfriend again, and they decide to go on a castle trip in another state. As soon as the stepbrother learns about this from his mother, he spends the entire day in bed, depressed and in deep thought. After an entire day of exploring castles, Minato decides to return home, but her ex-boyfriend suddenly informs her that he has booked a hotel room for an overnight stay. He convinces her to stay and books a single room for both of them. Seeing this, she changes her mind and decides to catch the last train home, but he threatens to reveal the truth to her brother if she leaves. Seeing that she would do anything to keep the truth a secret, he gives her the option to either sleep with him or risk getting the truth exposed. Left with no choice, she decides to sleep with him. As soon as she makes her decision, he reveals that he was only testing to see how far she would go for her brother. Her decision made him realize that she loved her brother, which means she had no place for him in her heart. After coming to this conclusion, he makes up his mind to stop chasing after her love. He bids farewell to her and leaves the hotel room in tears. Meanwhile, as the stepbrother eats dinner with his parents, his mother casually mentions that Minato owns 2 phones. He's shocked to hear this and wonders why she would be using 2 phones. After the dinner, the mother receives a text from Minato saying she would be staying overnight at a hotel. When he hears this, his expression immediately changes. That night, as he walks over to his room, he continues to ponder her reason for owning 2 phones. As he thinks deeply about it, he begins to piece things together and suspects that his sister had been posing as someone else in order to become his girlfriend. To confirm this, he dials his girlfriend's phone number and is shocked to hear the ringtone from his sister's room. Meanwhile, the next day, Minato makes up her mind to come clean to her brother and put an end to all the lies. As she walks out of the train station, she suddenly bumps into a stranger and falls to the ground. However, she's shocked to see that her brother is the stranger. And the most shocking part was that he was holding the phone he had gifted her. Realizing that he knows the truth, she reveals the reason for her action and apologizes to him. But instead of responding, he suddenly apologizes instead. He begins a lengthy confession, explaining that he had been happy when his father married her mother, as it meant he would spend more time with her. But as they grew older, his brotherly love turned into genuine affection for her, and once he realized how bad it was, he began chasing different girls in order to distract himself from her. But nothing worked. So, when he found someone who resembled her, he decided to use that person as a substitute. He also reveals that he had gotten jealous when he saw her ex-boyfriend escorting her home. He also realized it was hurtful to use someone else as a substitute for his sister, so he decided to break up with the blonde girlfriend. After confessing, he takes her to see the aquarium. There, he suddenly kisses her and asks her to be his girlfriend, to which she happily agrees.